Hello and welcome to Into the Light. I'm your host, Edina Mauvana. Today we have MärRem from MärRem Consulting. MärRem specializes in supporting neurodiverse individuals, those with ADHD, high sensitivity, or learning differences, transform stress into strength. So, with over 35 years of experience in education, she also designed personalized tools and strategies that honor each learner's individual writing and skills, helping clients build clarity, confidence, and just really meaningful connection in personal and academic journeys. MärRem, I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, Edina. It's a pleasure and it's an honor being here today.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I've been learning myself in the course of spiritual awakening and just journey work and personal development, all of the different ways in which our brains work as neurodivergent and neurotypical individuals, and
Yeah,
even within relationships and all of that stuff. And also parenting, you start to notice children with different abilities and things like that in
yep.
the school system and with our families. So I'm just so excited to learn more about how you really work to get the breakthroughs with your clients and help those who feel like we've started to learn a lot more about what it means to be on the spectrum and all of that.
Correct. And that's where years ago, when I first started bringing all this stuff out, I called it wired differently because it's like at times you are diagnosed with ADHD or you are diagnosed with learning disabilities, challenges. And those are a little bit more clear cut. But then there were those of us that it was like, okay, it's really not clear here. How can you be really bright and yet struggling so much? And that's what I would hear from parents at times when I was a special ed teacher. It's, but my child is so smart, and yet they sit there. They don't seem to be following directions. They just don't want to. So again, it was seen as willful. And
Mhm.
then that's where women actually are a very underdiagnosed population when it comes to ADHD. A
Yeah,
lot
I've
more
always heard
women.
that it's more common in boys, like by 80% or something like that. Is that actually a little bit misleading?
That is actually very
Oh,
misleading,
interesting.
particularly now. And women, because of how they present, or again, the norms that they might be, oh, a little bit more quiet, or again, here's what the expectation is, that they can have their brains running busy. Their brains never stop. Or they're sitting there and they're tapping their feet, or they're like doing other stuff so that they're really busy, and then how they channel their energies. So
Mm.
also there's coping strategies that are very different for both men and women up until around age 35 or so, when we can make ourselves do stuff like, oh no, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So then we can do that. And then stuff starts happening. So again, I believe in body, mind, and spirit,
Yeah.
that we have to be whole human beings. And so then what happens is that after a while, our bodies just don't, it's no, I'm not going to do that anymore. I can't do it in that way. I don't want to stay up. I used to, the way I got through college at times was then waiting and studying way late in the night. And then I would get up really early and I'd go running.
Yeah,
And
I feel like women have a bet like a higher degree of masking behavior to fit in, or like we don't show the amount to which something is afflicting. It's like we are conditioned, highly conditioned to maybe mask a little bit more than the other gender. And I also think we're prone to taking on a lot more, like women who are especially, you hear a lot about like over parentification daughters and women who have been conditioned to take on and be more highly over functioning. Isn't that part of it as
so
well?
there's a way in which society kind of has that. There's also, I think, a way, because there's nature versus nurture. So it's both like how we're born in our systems and how we are. So I was thinking about a show I went to a long time ago, but it was about men, and men are hunters and they go out and they go get the hunt, where women are gatherers. And
Gatherers,
again,
right? Yeah.
and they need people, and there's more connection there. So how they do stuff. There is that part which you're true, but women, again, like you've got the kids at home, you've got the parents, you've got the neighbors, you've got your partner, significant other, and then there's the teacher, and if your kids are going to school, and then there's your coworkers. And so women, again, there's this innate, I think, more sense of that, where we just care about everybody. We care about the tribe. We care about people we're around. And so then there is this expectation, but there's societal expectations. And then we don't, again, when we're so busy and what we do is like connect with others, or we can feel others' energy. Isn't that
Mhm.
true that you can
Yeah.
feel?
Yeah.
So then
Especially if you're
it's
empathic or you feel like you have that sort of
correct. Yeah.
absorption of
And
energy.
then even though you have anxiety and depression, it's, oh, yeah, you just give too much. Oh, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Don't worry so much. Just get over it. And so women get a lot more diagnosed with anxiety and depression, and
Right.
they don't get diagnosed with ADHD because at times there's all of these things, right? So one of the things with ADHD is that our mind is too active. It's holding too many thoughts. It's juggling too much. And yet what you're just describing is that's the world of the woman. Okay. And then we're supposed to be there for others. There's also this funny ADHD thing, in a
Mm,
way, is that we take in more information. Our brains don't filter and don't prioritize it.
mm.
Okay. And then everything has high priority. Everything is really important. So doesn't that kind of sound like being a woman? Like,
Yeah,
again,
everything is it's like learning to multitask effectively or how to prioritize.
but then who's the person that is always at the bottom of the list?
Yeah,
Who's
the
the one it's all get
self-care, right?
exactly. So again, there is this lack of sense of self.
Yeah.
And that is by nature, by society, how they do it, by what we learn. And then when it's so confusing in times inside, because that's where when I start working with a lot of people, kids and adults,
Mhm.
it's, oh, so how do you feel? What do you like to eat? And sometimes there are these blank stares. I don't know. I don't know what I like. It's like I'm going to be liking whatever it is, whoever I'm with.
Yeah,
Does
like
that
you
make
become
sense?
yeah, it's like a mm, you just do go along, you
You
become
just, again,
fit
and you
your own
don't
needs.
even
Yeah.
know, and it's too, and then it's okay. Let's slow down. Let's start noticing. Let's start noticing your thoughts. Let's start noticing. So that is like the beginning part of work I do with people, because you have to know yourself. You have to be able to really understand that and keep coming home. And that's where women later on, again, they're not getting diagnosed until their 40s, 50s, and 60s. Actually,
Mm.
even in their 70s. A good friend of mine who I have been connected with, she's 75 and she got diagnosed and ended up coming to one of my Find Your Flow groups. I have these 4-month programs, 4-month groups.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I find your flow. It's from stress to freedom to from frantic to freedom, right?
Freedom,
Yeah.
from frantic to freedom with
Yeah.
ADHD is my workshop. So
Yeah.
I give those a lot. That's my signature workshop,
Uh-huh.
because again, it gives practical strategies. It starts looking at ways that we can identify, because that negative self-talk,
Mm.
again, I know everybody does it, but women in particular at times, and it's the, oh, I could have done that better. Why didn't I do that? I should have known that. And yet it's, we can't know what we don't know. Or I'm doing my best and something has to give. I needed to make a choice. This was my best option. So there's a way in which our brains too, when we have ADHD, they go to this uber high expectation. And then there really isn't a path, and it's really the sense of time isn't there. So again, we're supposed to be able to do these miraculous things, have it look like this ultimate thing, and yet it's unrealistic. So if
Yeah.
we had a friend, we would say, oh, don't worry about that. Wait a minute. Let's slow down.
Yeah. Yeah, and so tell me about how the work that you're doing is bringing you into because I know you mentioned the soul, the spiritual, the soul alignment, mind body. It's and for me, I think a lot about balancing like our masculine and our feminine sides of us because I know we've been talking about how as women, a lot of it is from our being in our overly masculine states. That's what's causing and creating us in these positions of stress. So tell me a little bit about how your work really moves into that like holistic approach to dealing with every part of the female and the
Great.
sensory
Thanks
unit.
for asking. Right. Because again, we have to feel connected. We need to feel good about ourselves. and what we're doing
Yeah.
in our place in the world. So part of it is really pausing and noticing. So some people call it mindfulness, but I
Yeah.
have a lot of people again then have a negative reaction to mindful. Oh, you're just gonna, it's like, okay, that might, because then I'm supposed to be calm and
Or
being,
meditation, resistant.
again, because how easy is it when you've got movement in your body to stop and do that? So
Yeah.
rather than do that, it's just, okay, let's pause.
Mm.
Let's take a moment. Okay. Let's just allow a deep breath. And then there is that noticing because our brains can move so fast that if we pause and slow down, it's wait a minute. At times, it's also really noticing what is going well. Because again, ADHD brains, you may make your bed and you don't stop to go and look at, oh, wow, my room is clean. It's neat. All right, high five, I did it. We don't give ourselves the acknowledgement. We might do it for someone else because we know how important it is to help them keep going. So with kids, it's like, all right, thank you. You put away your lunchbox. You took things out of it. All right, thanks. I noticed that you put your dishes in the dishwasher. Good job. Way cool. Or even our colleagues. So when we're at work,
Mm-hmm.
thanks so much. That was so helpful. All right. Do you need anything else? No, I already got that sent off. Blah, blah, blah. Did you get? So then we're really always acknowledging and supporting everybody else. And that is so important. So again, spirituality for me is pausing at times, looking at the clouds outside when I go for a walk, looking at the flowers that are in bloom and taking it doesn't take that long. We can think, oh, it's going to take forever. But guess what? How long does it take to pause and look at the clouds, look at the sky and going, whoa, that's pretty neat. The sky is so blue today. I was
Yeah.
looking the other day and it was hazy and not hazy, it was overcast and
Yeah, well, it's like
drizzly.
a lot of people talk about the like having the Zen moments and whatnot whenever you can. Yeah, to bring in appreciation and all of that.
Correct. And that's what it is. For me, like it's not about getting somewhere, it's not getting to nirvana. It's about getting more ease, organization, and flow in my life right now, today. And we can come up with every, like each moment, or if we notice things are going south, then it's, wait a minute, what can I do? I need to check in with myself to see what's going on and how do I shift it? But if we keep going and we're so busy,
Yeah.
and then we're masking it, it's nope, I need to power through it. Nope, I can't do that. So the other thing that you're bringing up in that, because again, this masculine world is that we feel like we have to be, again, we're there for others. We have to be strong. We have to do this, be empathetic, and that people can't, we can't be having a bad day or a hard time. So when you have, and then there's more people getting diagnosed, women as well, with autism. So there's this thing now called AUDI, where you have autism and ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
And so like now I would be diagnosed with AUDI. So
Mm.
again, when I was going through my whole diagnosis at 45 to find out I had ADHD, and then at 52 with my learning issues, and I actually have huge, significant learning disabilities, but I'd already had 2 master's degrees, and nobody thought that I had any problem because everybody, I looked so successful on the outside.
Yeah, because I was gonna ask you what brought you into doing this work and creating your, I know you call it the integrated neuro
Neurosensory
processing. Yeah,
processing.
what really, because you've been doing it for over 35 years, and like you said, what was the catalyst to really bring you to creating this?
In my background, when I was in college, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So actually, I was one of those women where my parents didn't care if I graduated from high school.
Mm.
They expected me to get married and have kids, and that was what I was supposed to do. But there were a few challenges, and I didn't want that. So I knew that first my ticket out was to graduate from high school. So I graduated early so I could leave home. That didn't fly. So anyway, I ended up living with another family, and they said, oh, you're too young, you need to go to community college. So I went to community college and like, wow, this isn't so bad. And so then they took me around and I ended up going to UC Berkeley in
Mm.
California. And that's actually a well-renowned university, only I had no clue that was
Yeah, I
It was
went
that.
I went to Cal also. What's your major?
I was in the College of Natural Resources,
Yeah.
Conservation Resource Studies, Environmental
Okay.
Medicine.
Oh, amazing.
And I went there in chemical engineering, but then I, anyway, transferred sequences. And the deans, you're a woman, and most women don't end up really using this. And I was struggling because I was mid sequence of stuff. And I came from a very small community college. And so I didn't really know how to study. So it
Mm,
wasn't that
mhm.
I didn't know some materials. I was working at the Student Learning Center, but I didn't know how to really study myself because I didn't have to. So then when you're too much of a people person. And so you really can't work. I also needed to support myself to get through college. You should go and be a helping person. So that's where, again, that was the state way back then. So I ended up taking environmental medicine. There's all sorts of people. I took an introduction to special ed class, and we needed to do a lab class. So I went to this after school independent living skills place. And so I was volunteering there to be able to do my special ed class. And there were students there with autism. And so I was fascinated. So I did my senior project at Cal on autism way back in 1982. And
Wow.
so it was fast. And there was a way I could connect with these kids. I would enter into their world. And so I was just drawn to that. And then I became a severely handicapped special ed teacher. And so in that, I then ended up going to a small county. So again, small things. And then I went around to do different classrooms in different schools because I had this knack of being able to work with lots of different kids. And so I
Mm,
worked with juvenile delinquents for 8 years. And I also did the special ed preschool stuff. And when I was there, I was introduced to something called, it was all back then, integrated neurosensory. No, it was integrate. Oh, what is it? But it's sensory processing disorder
yeah,
now.
because
But
I've
it,
heard of NLP, right? Neuro linguistic programming, but it's
right.
different, right?
That's different than that. So that's really like the thoughts and how they change our brain. This is about our sensory systems
Right.
and sort of motor planning or auditory processing. So some kids are really sensitive. So if you can't hear sounds, you're deaf. But
Mm,
if you process later. So one of the little guys I was working with, there was like the little farm came to visit, and the question was like, what do goats like to eat? And so after nap time, this little kid comes running up to his teachers, tugs on them, and goes, grass. They like to eat grass, and runs off. And before, it was this kid was always coming up and giving these answers. His brain took a long time for that question to go in, but because I'd been working with them and working with him, they were like, MärRem, wow, he was telling us the answer that this woman asked when she had the little farm animals here. What did the goat like to eat? Oh,
it was
so
just
it's
like a
like
delayed response, right? So it's sort
very
of like
delayed.
the order to
Correct.
operations is a little different.
Correct. So that's where it's sensory integration. So everything was
Yeah.
sensory integration way back in the 80s and early 90s. And then they started calling it sensory processing disorder.
Mm,
So there's all different senses that we have. And then there's actually more senses than the typical five. So again, this integrated neurosensory, because again, we are. So people would go, oh, yes, here's the social emotional brain. Here's the academic brain. And yet, in order to think about academics, we have to read, we have to use the sensory part. We have words, we
yeah.
have language, auditory parts. So people, again, would separate this out instead of bringing it all together.
Mm. Yeah, so you're bringing in things that more on a holistic level rather than separating
Correct.
them out,
Yeah.
right? So tell me about how you're working with the with women, especially stressed out, having a lot of difficulties, and maybe bringing in better organization, or is it about regulating yourself better or
So there's always that
processing? Yeah,
regulation piece in there, but it's also for me, then in the therapeutic world, there was something called wait, watch, and wonder. You're not
yeah,
supposed to, it's like, however, but if somebody's struggling, that impacts how they're feeling. So
right.
it's both. It's not just all about regulation. So at times there's visuals that are really helpful. So if you think about on our phone, we have icons on our phone to know what apps are there. So at times if our brains are tired, believe it or not, it's harder to read words. So sometimes having little stick figures. So I would do these little things about the morning routine. I worked with, I don't know, he was really high up in his organization. He's like, "MärRem, I can't tell anybody about this." It's like, "What?" He goes, "Sometimes I wake up in the morning. I know I'm supposed to run a meeting, but I can't figure out how I'm going to get out of bed and get there."
Oh,
And that is terrifying. So this is, again, there's that anxiety that comes up. And yet he's really smart. He knows he's supposed to do this. Where do you go tell people? And it doesn't make sense cognitively. You got to be kidding me. That's all I get it. I know what that's like. So again, here are different strategies. So again, I have real practical strategies from doing this for years, and that
mm,
needs to be tailored to each individual person, because what works with somebody isn't going to work with somebody else, but there's still these foundational things that really work. So again, the underlying foundational stuff is the same, but then tweaking it for each person. And so then it was like we created
yeah.
this thing with little sticky notes and stuff. And then you can put it like away, or you can have it on your phone. Cause then it's like those mornings when your brain is off, it's like you don't have to sit there panicking, and then know that somehow you do always get there. But it
Mm,
doesn't make you feel good that, oh, I slipped by. Cause then that also goes into that imposter syndrome. It's like, why in the heck am I was going to swear, but I decided I probably shouldn't. Am I the manager of blah 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 if I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to lead the meeting correctly or even get there? So
yeah.
then it creates this very much an imposter syndrome that, like, what do I really know? Do I know anything? And at
Mm,
times with ADHD neurodivergent brains, it's what we know just seems to go away and then it comes back. So it's
mm.
crazy making. Edina, I got to tell you.
Yeah, it sounds like what's really helpful is each person needs a sort of individualized plan or strategy, different technique for different people. So
Yes.
yeah, how long you said you work with a like a 4 month
So
program?
there's a 4-month Find Your Flow program I
Find your
have. And
flow.
what
Uh-huh.
is wonderful about that is then you find out you're not alone, even though in a way you know you're not alone, because there's
Yeah,
all of these news stories out there. It's like more individuals are getting diagnosed with ADHD and
right.
blah,
You
blah,
hear that.
blah, and all of that stuff. And yet, even though you're diagnosed, a lot of doctors out there, a lot of other therapists, even that sometimes have, I've done this certification training. If you haven't lived it, if you haven't worked with tons of parents and adults and families around this. So again, I have been like real practical, knowing, like putting stuff in place and different things like that, then it's like you need a place where you're not feeling alone, where you get to hear others, that you get to have
Mhm.
then
Oh,
things
good. Yeah, like
tweaked.
community support or yeah,
Absolutely.
that's really important.
Absolutely. Because that's what I've noticed in my groups is that they are just like, oh my God, I really get to be myself here and share and then hear others, because it's really confusing. Okay, I got to tell you.
Yeah.
And then where do you go? Because that's where, again, like women end up masking a whole lot,
Mm.
because it's okay. Do I share about my struggle? But I'm still also. So it's a both and, it's not either or.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not like you're successful or you're
Y
not.
Right, and you really have to find the community and the support, and how long so you say that are people coming with different areas of their life, like their relationships? I know you mentioned career and burnout and stress, because you're working with women, helping them transform the stress into strength and whatnot. What sort of transformations are your community members, your clients, all of them seeing when they have the breakthroughs using the neurosensory processing techniques?
Well, and being this one woman, I'm going to call her Lisa. She
Yeah.
came and she was like, she wasn't even sure I could help her. Are you sure? I think I'm too far gone. And she had this job and she did great during the summertime because it was field work. So she got to be out in nature. That is one of the things that's really helpful, is being
Being in
outdoors,
nature, yeah.
moving and being in nature. But in the wintertime, they needed to work on reports and all the data that they had gathered. And then I'm late. I get up late. I'm not doing the amount of work I need. I'm being a slob. I'm not taking my medication like I should. So all of this stuff. And then I just think I'm hopeless. So again, there were these phone calls that started out with a find your flow strategy call, checking in because I want to make sure people, again, like what their goals are, that they're going to be a good fit, that here's how the groups run. And then getting the group together, they're small because it needs to be small so that people
Mm,
again get to connect. So generally they're 5 to 7. But then
mm,
over time, and in the beginning, she was struggling. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm going to be coming on late, whatever. And then later on, getting these little things in place. And then it was, wow, she ended up joining a gym. She got her food. We talked about the medication stuff, connected with her doctor. There's other tips around medication, but it
yeah.
really is, again, individualized. So hearing people and then giving them ideas what to check with their doctor about. And then by the end, it was like, wow, she was ready to go. She was prepped. They were getting ready to go out in the field again. She was the one that they had said, again, needed to organize all this stuff. It used to be a nightmare. It's let's create blah, blah, blah. Where are you going to keep it? Here's some different ideas. It was
Yeah.
amazing where she
She was able to
started
be
out.
balanced, bring in the balance
Yes.
to the
And then
whole.
some, yeah, like her, it was personal, it was professional, it was with her friends and family, it was with her
Mm,
partner.
yeah, that's great. Finding there's so much talk about finding flow or being in flow state, right?
Yeah.
Or being in that sort of alignment. And
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned things like being in nature. What other sort of day-to-day recommendations do you have for people who might be struggling with, yeah, just being too stressed out right now and not knowing where to go or what to do about it?
So again, there's different things out there, but having connection. So finding at least one friend that you can connect with, because that is really helpful that we're not alone. So again, there's also, you can go on, like I have different reels out there, different stuff on social media, other people do. So that positive, having, and people will say a gratitude practice, but it's about thinking about something that went well or getting somebody else to smile. So that's where when I'm out shopping or doing something, just looking up to somebody and saying hi and smiling. And when they smile back, it's okay, take it in. It's yes, there's somebody else out there. You can be out walking, you can be out shopping. But again, then it's wow, thanks, awesome. So again, there's all these little things that we can do. It again, it's not like this big thing. You've got to sit down, you've got to meditate for 45 minutes. But
Yeah.
it's those little things about having fun with your kids if you have kids. What's going to make you laugh? Getting laughter in
Yeah.
really helps shift energy too. Having something to look forward to. Because if you don't, I worked
Mhm.
with a kid once and it was like, what do you have to look forward to? And poor guy, he was in middle school and I look forward to vacation every year. It's
Yeah.
really, and then his mom sitting there going, really? You have allergies. You are like sick. Your allergies are so bad for 5 of the 7 days. So I guess the first 2 days when they go out, he's pretty good.
Vacation.
But that was the only thing he was looking at. Wait a minute, we got to get something else in your day. You have to look forward to something each and every day.
Yeah, and the small moments of gratitude, like you mentioned, is a really important, and that's like lifting our vibe, our energy
Yeah.
up all the time. So, yeah,
Yeah.
every day bringing in the small moments of gratitude. So, yeah, where can people find you, Miriam, on social media? I know you mentioned where people can find your website and your Instagram reels and things like that. What's the best someone
So I'm,
person wants
yeah,
to sort of learn more about their thriving with ADHD and taking
HD.
care of themselves?
Absolutely. So it's at MarRem ADHD expert. So I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and I have done some YouTube out there, but I haven't been active on that for a while. And my website is MarRemConsulting.com. And also there's this new thing for professionals, Alignable.
Yeah.
And that is also another great place to, again, find out things and figure out getting supports both for yourself if you're a professional and also for your customers, because again, this is about that networking and connecting, because the more connected we are, again, we all need help and support around various things. So it's like, how do we do this together? Particularly now in this world, we need to lift each other up. We need to recognize the positives and again, work towards, I think, a world where we all get to be respected, belonged, and figure out how to work things out.
Oh, I love that. Yes, definitely. We're going to have all of those links underneath our episode. And MärRem, it's such a pleasure to talk to you and learn a little bit more about, especially that I didn't know that the misdiagnosis that women have, that we actually are a much larger part of the population that has maybe been
Right.
misdiagnosed all these years. So a lot more people are finding out about themselves. And just, I think it's a bigger part of learning each of one of us is programmed and what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are, because as you mentioned, people with ADHD in general, they have high intelligence, right? It's almost like a super
Yeah.
functioning ability, but it has to come into alignment in order to be a superpower rather than a detriment, right?
Correct. And then there are those out there that can, but then those that many that can't or struggle. And it's like,
Yeah.
you don't have to be in that alone. So again, when you have ADHD, it's not magically just going to disappear. Okay, you have ADHD for life, but there are ways to bring your bottom up, to make things be easier. Know your go-to strategies to keep putting them back in place. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's where it's so important to find out what works for you because you are an individual.
Yes, I love that. We all are individual and contributing to the collective. Thank you so much, MärRem. It was great talking to you, and we hope to have you on talk to you soon, okay?
Okay, all right, take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.